thank you all for joining us again, second season of Navigating Realities. I'm here with a good friend and colleague, Sue Altman, who's been working in New Jersey for years, been an activist. So we'll get into all the history of your work being an activist, some of the work you've done down in Camden, running for office before, and now you're running again. And I just want to start with your background, Sue. I know there's a lot being made about, being a, I think what's not talked about enough is your college career and ball plays. I love basketball. I think you were like a scoring leader or something.
I was for a while there,
Yeah. So, tell me a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up? Where you're from? Like, what was your household like?
Yeah. So I grew up in Clinton, New Jersey, in Hunterdon County. I have two parents. It was like a normal, boring nuclear family. My parents are lovely. I have a younger brother. My parents are both Republicans, and so
I grew up in the Republican house as well.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
Oh my goodness, we have that in common.
Yes,
are they still Republicans?
Still Republicans.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you understand the struggle
Family
of like a
dinners
Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh yeah.
It can be hard. It can be very hard. I think they've like long wondered why I don't just like when I graduated college, I had an opportunity to go like work on Wall Street, and instead I went to go play professional basketball overseas. And I think my parents are still like, why didn't you just go get a normal job like your cousins, go work at a company, make some money. But yes, my parents are lovely and, were very supportive, didn't put a lot of pressure on me to succeed. I think that a lot of that pressure came from me. But yeah, was very blessed with all that I had received as a young person growing up. Like my parents are both still alive and healthy today, and my brother and his wife just had a little baby, so I'm an aunt for the first time.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, you mentioned the pressure. I think a lot of us put pressure on ourselves. Where do you think that comes from?
It's a good question. I spent a lot of time thinking about this. I think when you grew up in a certain point in time, I think there was a mythology, at least when I was growing up, that if you work hard and you do all the things to get ahead, you can make it, you can live this great life and you can follow your dreams and you can find work that both satisfies you and pays the bills. And I think part of what we're living through right now is a correction of that vision. And I feel like people are who have all done the right stuff, took the hard classes, took the AP classes, got themselves through college, maybe even got graduate degrees, they're still not able to buy a house or still not able to feel like they are comfortable financially. And the goalposts keep shifting.
It does.
And there's a real anger about that. So where does the original pressure to want to succeed come from? I don't know, probably some myth of the meritocracy meets capitalism meets millennial perfectionism. I don't know, some vision of being a first child. I don't know, it comes from all these different ways and truly wanting to do well and succeed, and maybe it's competitive instinct, but I think what people are feeling now is it's all a little bit of a myth. It's not real. And the payout, that moment where you're like, all right, we made it, we're good, hasn't happened. And people are really frustrated. I mean, have you found the same thing?
Absolutely. I mean, my kids, I'm old, so I got 4 adult kids and 3 grandkids. And we talk about this, my bonus daughter, she owns a home. But some of my other 2 kids, my youngest son, he's on Broadway and stuff.
Yeah.
He was like, Dad, I don't want to get a 30-year mortgage. What the fuck?
I don't want to live in one place for 30 years.
So I was like, what are you? He's traveling all over the world
That's
now
awesome.
with David Burns on his tour. But it's a different mentality, a different generation. So, I think kids today are seeing things differently, and that's good.
Definitely. I think it is good. It's refreshing. And I think it does cause a lot of anxiety because I was talking to some voters this week, and they were saying there are people whose kids just were graduating college this year or have just graduated, and they're saying what is my kid who's always done well in school, they're graduating from this good university, what are they going to do? They're having trouble finding a job. That job doesn't pay the bills, they can't even move out of our house. And so you're seeing the pressure at a lot of different generations of this shifting economy, which I think we're going to be feeling for a while, and it's very nerve-wracking for folks.
So it's interesting when we talk about the pressure and talk about the drive. To be a collegiate athlete, to play college ball and play professional ball, that's a rarity. I marvel at the ability of you guys to do that. Where did that come from? How did that come about, Sue?
It's such a good question. well, I'm really competitive. So like,
obviously,
yeah. Is it obvious? What do you mean?
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, the dirty little secret is that I was less worried about winning, like less driven by the desire to win, and more that I didn't want anyone else to win. Like I needed to win because I didn't want to lose to anybody else. And I think I've found this with people in sports and other places, like who are high achieving. It's like the buzz of winning lasts for just a minute. And then you're just like, okay, what's the next thing? Like, how do I achieve the next thing?
Wow.
But I think I was really lucky. I had like some athletic talent, but I also had some great coaches who brought out both the best and the worst aspects of my personality. You know, like I was, no matter what, every day I would try to practice. I felt like the more I did, the more I practiced, the more I would make shots. Like basketball is like a game of inches and repetitions and skill. So the more you put into it, the more you get out. I mean, to a certain point. So I was like obsessed with making sure I got my shots, you know, like snow days. It would drive me crazy in high school when we had a snow day, because of course basketball season's in the wintertime. Right. So that means I was going to miss a day of practice. And like the kids in Florida, they didn't have snow days. So they're out there practicing. So like I was like, all right, I'm going to shovel the way like around the basket in the backyard, or I'm going to get the key to the community center because the kids in Florida don't have snow days.
So in your mind, you had to keep up. Like,
I was like, I've got to make sure, because one day I'll face these people. And I truly believed like people with more talent, and I was like medium level talent. Like I had good talent, but I wasn't great.
You're not medium level talent when you're playing collegiate basketball.
Well, I mean,
any sport. Listen, look,
I can still remember.
I can play, but I can't play college ball, professional ball. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so
fair.
Like, I don't care what level. I don't care what it is. If you're playing any college sports or any type of professional sport, you're elite.
That's true. I mean, it's true in the grand scheme of things. But of course, you always remember the ones who are a little better than you. You know, you're always thinking like, okay, I got to get out there. I got to beat them. But I always felt like if I met them in a direct contest, the fact that I worked hard to get to that level, and they may have just like woken up that way, that when it came down to being head to head, like I would beat them. And I wanted to be in better shape. I wanted to be faster. I wanted to be fitter and stronger. And so that really drove me.
Wow.
I like to win.
That's pretty incredible. So let's talk about this activist life. Now, you grew up in a Republican home, so did I. So how did the activism come about? Like these issues of race and economics and the social justice issues. You've been at some of the forefront of some of this stuff. You know, when I first met you, it was in the activist space. Where did that come from?
Where did that come from? I mean, it's really interesting. So Hunterdon County is like very white. Like I grew up in a super white community. Race was not talked about in my household at all. I grew up, my school was mostly white, like predominantly white. Almost like, if I think back on it, it's almost ridiculously so. And it wasn't until after, I mean, I encountered racial dynamics and started thinking about it as a basketball player, because you travel to other places, to other gyms, you see other schools, you see the condition of those schools. Like my high school was in a beautiful location. It was on the top of a hill, great view, Voorhees High School, go Vikes. Beautiful state park in the background. I mean, it was like gorgeous. But you get on a bus, drive an hour east, and it's a totally different situation. And so I definitely started thinking about that a little bit, you know, being in visiting locker rooms, but truly didn't appreciate the level of difference and segregation between the haves and have-nots in New Jersey, and which is maps very clearly in many cases, obviously, onto white folks and people of color, particularly Black folks, until I was a teacher. And I taught at a prep school. So I taught at Blair Academy. I was a public school girl, but I taught at Blair Academy because because I was playing college basketball, I couldn't get certified because there wasn't enough time. So I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a public school teacher, but you had to get certified, and it was too time consuming while also playing basketball. And so Chris Christie was governor, and he was on this rampage cutting education stuff everywhere, remember? And he was mean to teachers, and he was just awful everywhere. And I, at that point, was living in Camden, so I'd finished working at the prep school, but was aware of these dynamics. Then I moved to Camden, and obviously Camden is like one of the most egregious examples of segregation. That's where we first met, when you were working in Camden. And I went to a town hall Chris Christie was holding, and at that point, the state had taken over Camden's public school district, and there was a lot of controversy at the ground level with the people who lived there about the closure of their traditional public schools, and who were these privatizing forces coming in on behalf of Christie to privatize the school system. And so I asked him a question, and we went back and forth, Chris Christie and I, and he was surprised that like a white lady asked a question about Camden, and he eventually, in our exchange, took his wireless microphone and threw it at me. But I was dressed in like my finest Republican outfit, with, like my pearls and my nice little lady shoes. But so I think he was shocked that I like snatched it out of the air and then proceeded to kind of hold my space with him. And that was the moment I got hooked in Jersey politics. I had been blogging and things on the side, like exploring these themes of like being a private school teacher and having the benefit of an incredible public education when there was obviously such discrepancy based on zip code and place of birth, which maps onto race. And so that was kind of the point where I was like, oh, this might be my next basketball.
Yeah, so he didn't know you were a ball player, right?
No, definitely not. But like, I think that was the gateway drug into this world of Jersey politics and the interplay between the Republican Party and at that point the South Jersey Democrats and the alliances they had and the like desire that all parties seemed to share, which was to like suck the life out of these cities and these school districts for money. And that drove me crazy. Like there's something about power dynamics being unfair, and there's something about like differentiation of power and the more powerful being taking advantage of the less powerful being that drives me insane. It gets those competitive hackles up. It feels just like deeply unfair. And so that became the beginning of my activism journey.
Talk about the power dynamics in politics in New Jersey. You obviously have a lot of experience with it.
Yeah.
What do you see some of the benefits and some of the weaknesses in it?
Yeah, well, I think it's changing now, like because the county line is fallen, and that was like the original power dynamic, I would say. Like we couldn't live.
You were originally a part of that, weren't you?
Yes. New Jersey Working Families was on the original lawsuit, and we carried that lawsuit for years until the senator kind of put it over the finish line. So yeah, that fight is near and dear to my heart. But that was the original power dynamic. Like it was, what do the county party bosses want? And then there was like no check and balance because most of New Jersey was safe blue, safe Democratic. There was never competitive elections. So you had people who had been in office for 30 years who had not ever once run a competitive election, not in the general, not in the primary. And that was like the original setting of the table of what I think New Jersey's like power dynamics were. But so I think things are in flux right now, which is going to be a little chaotic for a while. Both the organizers and the grassroots and labor and the advocacy community like isn't used to having primaries. So I think they're not sure how to weigh in. They don't know what typical dynamics are. There's some like nervousness about different kind of like, you know, when to weigh in and when not, what's a viable candidate. So all that's going to get shaken out in the next few cycles. But the power dynamics currently, I think, are going to hold on. Like power does not give up power politely. There'll be different levers at play. You still have a budget process in Trenton, which wields a lot of power. The legislature controls a lot through that. And as you know, like they won't put the budget out until like right before everyone has to vote on it to eliminate public conversation. At the county level, the county commissioners collectively, I think, control, at last check, about $9 billion in New Jersey of public money, and a lot of your taxpayer dollars go to county budgets. Those are often very, very often single party bodies that control these huge, huge budgets of hundreds of millions of dollars every year. And so that's power. And so power and money and power all coincide. And I think understanding that so viscerally here in New Jersey and like having been through all of that and how much you see these powerful folks clinging to their control of both power and money because they're interchangeable is like the best way to understand what's happening in Washington right now. Like you have the Trump administration and the Republicans. Now, the Democrats are no angels. We'll come back to them later. But the Republicans are blowing us out of the water in terms of being awful right now. So like eyes on them. But the Republicans are trying to control the democracy by like suppressing voting rights, suppressing rights of people who typically vote Democrat, changing the rules around gerrymandering, and a whole host of other things, voter ID laws. They're going to try to control the democracy because they want to control money. And those are two sides of the same coin. Like that fight, the unfair economy, the rigged economy, and the democracy that's like in demise are two sides of the same fight.
What is the what is the ground level impact? Because you were at the ground level in organizing. You know, talk a little bit about what you see the impact of how this system is structured. You know?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think back to, I lived in Camden for 7 years, and the outrage, appropriately, of being in a city where the residents don't have the same voting rights as people in other parts of the state. So for a while, Camden couldn't elect its own school board. In a place like here, or in Trenton and in Camden, voting rates are way down. So the voices of people in this community are not heard at the state or county or federal levels. And you have like these endlessly complicated lives in places like Camden. People are truly struggling to survive. And I was there during the pandemic, I mean, for many years, but part of it was during the pandemic time. And it was so clear to me how difficult life was for people during the pandemic in Camden. I mean, they still had to go to work in many cases, lack of access to healthcare, options for working remotely, the effect of remote school on students, the stress on parents and families, the economic stress. Like those things are all barriers to participation in the public process and civic engagement. And so you add layers of difficulty on people's lives and they're less likely to become engaged politically. And that's a choice. Like that is a choice, I think, by our society to impose these extra barriers of entry to folks in the system. And we think about it often in terms of voting rights, like the actual minute you go to the booth to vote, but it way precedes that. It's way more structural than that. And so you have all these decades of segregation and these decades of disinvestment in places like Camden or Trenton that are never remedied, and then we blame people for not voting.
That's one of the craziest things that, to me, we blame. Typically, black communities are always pointed out, the black vote is down. And I asked a good friend of mine, I said, Tone, like, what is there's all this discussion around the black vote. He said, well, you give black folks somebody to vote for and inspire them, they'll come out and vote. We saw it with Barack Obama. And it's just a simple question, right? If folks produce people who can inspire people and get people to believe, people will vote.
Yeah.
I don't think our democracy is giving us that right now.
100% agree.
And I think there are moments in our history, there are moments in world history that points to how democracy falls or how empires fall.
Yep.
And I'm concerned a little bit about America. And I want to get into my theory about this, but I'm curious to know, because so I think sometimes we do, as an activist, me, myself, and years ago, we can fall in this trap of good people versus bad people. How do you avoid that?
So I am like not at all a believer in the great man theory of history. I'm just over it. The idea that like there's some super guy who's gonna come in riding on a white horse and fix everything because he's got some special, it's always a man,
right.
He's got some special
it's always
skill
a man,
set
usually,
who's gonna, right, it's usually a white man, who's got some special skill set, he's extra handsome and he's tall and he's fabulous and he's just gonna come in and fix everything. Like I'm done with that. Like that's not how it works. And you're entirely correct. Like we can't blame people for reacting rationally to a system that's failed them over and over and over again. And for me, part of that equation is about excitement and it's about like eagerness to participate because of good feelings. But part of it too is about feeling like they have, people in general, all of us, feeling like we have control over our destiny and that there's an impact that our vote makes, that we can access power. We're within an arm's length of power. And if you feel so far removed from power and so disenfranchised, and that word means so many things. We think of it in terms of voting, but it really means like proximity to power. If you are so far from power that you don't feel like your vote will matter, either because the candidates are essentially interchangeable, or for a while you don't even have choice.
Right.
Like voting is a habit too, so you can't expect someone to flip a switch and to say like, oh, now we're gonna vote. But also that you just don't feel like collectively that will matter, then the rational choice is to not participate. It doesn't make sense to participate. Now I will say, encouragingly, since the line has gone, we've had like the governor's race, there's been an uptick in voting turnout. I think, and we saw it in the special election in 11. And I think part of it is candidates, but part of it's just like a system where there's now closer proximity to power. You say, oh, my vote actually will matter in this race. And that's really exciting. It can be chaotic. It can be hard to predict. But that is democracy, and democracy can be messy sometimes, and that's okay.
Absolutely, it was designed to be messy.
And it's okay.
To have debate and discussion, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's the whole purpose of this, right? So, you brought up something that struck a chord with me, proximity of power. Because I think there's an illusion sometimes that being in proximity of power means you actually have power. You've been in some very powerful rooms. So talk to me a little bit about the difference between proximity to power and actually having power.
Oh, that's a good question. I think, that's a very interesting question. I think that power is obviously a very elusive thing to quantify or even describe.
Right.
I think the fascinating thing about it is that when you move into these different rooms, like being the state director for a U.S. senator, or being like at the table during, the first term Murphy administration when different budget things were being talked about, you were at some of the
You've been in these rooms, like
you realize that while power can be exercised, it is also something that people who have it protect and put up barriers, and the people closest to those people put up barriers because it's an asset, and so it's protected, it's hoarded. And so sometimes I think people feel that if they're in these rooms, then that's like enough. They've sort of made it, and there's like gives folks a sense of achievement. But if you're actually trying to create disruptive change, then that only becomes another place to try to do the same type of work. Like the work doesn't change, whether you're in the streets and you're organizing folks, or you're going to meetings in church basements, or you're at a fancy, room in Newark with a beautiful view of New York City. Like the work is the same,
it is,
but the room is just different. And I actually feel like if you're going to skip right to that room, you've missed the whole process. Like truly understanding how to be effective in those spaces, I think means you have to have come from a body of work where you've been in touch with real folks.
Because it can be intoxicating, right?
It can be.
I'm working on my memoir, and one of the chapters in my memoir is called The Allure. It's based upon Jay-Z's song The Allure, because it is intoxicating. He's like, I got a thing for these big body businesses, right? Like it's
fancy.
very,
You get a nice cup of coffee. You get people look nice.
Yeah, like, and so to stay grounded is very, very, very important.
Totally, and in fact, that's the asset. Like one of the most frustrating things about having kind of peered it behind the curtain in Washington D.C., both as a candidate in like a major swing district, so you got invited to all the fanciest events and like you got to meet all the VIP people, but also having worked in the U.S. Senate, you realize that like the people in Washington, like no offense to our brothers and sisters in D.C. working at the Capitol, they are so far removed from the actual work of people and the actual lived experience of 99% of Americans. And that is really frustrating. So how do you take the like movement with you when you're moving in these places of power and say, oh my God, this stuff's insane. Like this is just an argument among the very online. The real issue is this economic justice issue, or this fact of flooding in people's basements because we've overbuilt this area, or this fact of gas prices and utility prices being really high. Like that's the stuff people care about.
Yeah, it's because it's expensive being poor. I say this all the time.
Yes,
it's very expensive to be poor. The poor pay a large amount in utilities.
100%.
Like all these things that we take for granted.
Yes.
It costs people in poverty
more. And at the
more.
end of the month, like they have, like it's difficult and it's not fun. It takes the joy and the fun and the flexibility and that sense of freedom away from everyday life, and that grinds you down. So if we don't bring that energy to a room where there's power and proximity to power, then like you're kind of just wasting your spot on the table.
It's interesting, You talked about being in, because you've been in these, and we'll get to your political aspirations, but I mean, you spent so much time fighting in these rooms and being in these church basements. Talk to me about your faith. Whether you have or not, have that played a role in how you pursue?
It's so interesting. Like I grew up Presbyterian, like classic WASP. Like lovely church in Hunterdon County, and everyone was super nice. My biggest memories from going to church were that it was, so I was born in 1982, so I'm going to be 44 this month. And this was a community in Hunterdon County in the 80s and early 90s that was like still a farming community, but they were like older farmers and they were kind of aging out, and we hadn't had that like big rush of development yet where people were moving in who, like came from other backgrounds. So I remember when I was like 5 or 6, from like age 5 to like age 9 maybe, my brother and I were the only kids at church.
Really?
Like there were all old people, but like the people loved us, like because we were like the only children, and what joy to have kids at church, because they were all like elderly people. And so I have these pictures. My mom actually just sent me a box of photos. I don't know why. I guess she was going through stuff. And there's a picture of me all dressed up to go to church. Like I loved it. I loved getting all dressed up. I wore all my jewelry. Like I loved being a big deal at church. And so it was a positive experience for me. I wouldn't say I've grown up to be a very, very religious person. Like I don't still attend church. But there's these plates that they had at church, and underneath them was a saying, at the bottom of them, there was a saying that has stuck with me. And it was, to whom much is given, much is expected. And I think that's a passage from the Bible.
Yep.
And it really does mean something to me, because I look around and I see people who, came from middle class backgrounds like I did. Like, we've been given so much in this country as a white person growing up in an affluent area. Like, it's our responsibility to give back and to try to make the world better than we found it. And I feel that in my bones. And
where does that come from? Why is that? Why do you feel that way?
Why do I feel that way? I think because I'm aware of how much luck has played into it. Like,
it's funny you say that, because growing,
like, it's not fair.
I think it took me years to realize that luck is real.
Luck is real.
It's real.
It's just not a meritocracy.
It's not.
It's like 99% luck.
Yeah.
Like maybe a little bit of work, but like luck.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of luck. And so like that, once you realize that, it's pretty humbling. You're like, oh, I'm just like a half step away from being somebody else in a different time with different opportunities, working a different job. Like I'm not better than anybody. So I better make sure that I'm giving back to make the world more fair, because like it's the right thing to do. So
wow, that's pretty cool. So let's talk about this your political aspirations. You ran before and you're running again. Tell me, I obviously know why you won't give up, because you just keep going.
I don't know
what drives you to do, and what is it that you want you to run for Congress and be in a position that can have life-changing decisions? What is it? What is that hunger and drive for you, Sue?
Yeah, I think I'm actually, like, I love state politics. And so it's like a big decision when I decided to move away from state politics to go to federal work. And part of it is because you alluded to earlier that like you're a little nervous about what's going on in the country. Like for a while there, you're like, oh no, we're gonna ride this out. All right, it'll be a little bumpy for a minute, but we'll catch our stride. Like I am like genuinely nervous about, like, nervous is probably too, like, not strong enough word, like frightened, worried, anxious about what's happening in Washington. I think there's no handbrake. There's no room. I talked about great man. We talked about the great man before. Like, there's no room full of great men figuring this stuff out.
Yeah.
There's no one solving it.
Yeah.
There's no one coming to save us. Like, the only thing between Donald Trump and permanent damage to our democracy is the Democratic Party. And I think, and permanent damage to our democracy and Donald Trump and everything we've ever fought for, women's rights, civil rights, the environment, workers' rights, everything. And I think I'm, like, aware how flawed our beloved party is, that, like, I don't trust it to take that responsibility.
I agree with you.
Well.
You goddamn right, because
So
I'm not that impressed with the Democrats on the national level either.
No, and I get how it works. Like, we've seen Jersey. Like, I know how it works.
Yeah.
It's the same brain in D.C., just more removed from the real world, like 50 steps more removed. So do I trust the current consultants, leadership, to, like, navigate us through these torrential waters, to both fight when then you need to fight and build coalitions when you need to build coalitions? I don't. I don't. And I actually think this is the moment you need organizers and you need fighters, but also coalition builders in power, in government, in congressional seats. Because, like, otherwise, we are the only thing standing in the way, this party. No one's coming to save us. So we gotta fight, but we gotta rebuild, and we gotta deliver for people. And that has to be grounded in the work, and it has to be grounded in the need, it has to be grounded in community and local work. And so I feel like I do straddle these worlds in a way that I think I can offer something of value to the conversation and to the work in Washington. And so that's why I'm here. It's actually, like, the attention of it, the relentlessness of it, the fundraisingness of it, that sucks. Like, running is not that fun.
It's not that
I love my team, but running is hard. It's miserable. Like, I long for the days of being an organizer where you're fighting for issues, but I feel very, very, very responsible, and like we need to work together. The movement needs to have people in place who can bring these changes on the right way. Because we're going to be in a moment of extreme vulnerability for our country. And like, this is going to be a real, like the next 100 years will depend on this window of time. Like, I don't need to have this seat forever. I just want to see us through this very vulnerable moment.
How do your parents feel?
Oh my God, they're like, can't you get a real job? What was wrong with working for a U.S. senator? That's a good job. No, they're just like, but they're supportive. They're supportive. But
it's a lot. It's a lot.
They would have been thrilled if I went and worked in the private sector.
Well, I mean, part of running is people don't see the toll it takes on your family. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like,
no, totally. I have a great boyfriend. He has kids. He's so supportive. Like, he puts up with so much, and I'm so grateful to him because I like roll in a hot mess, I roll out. He cooks, he takes care of things, he like walks my dog, and he's so positive and so helpful. And he doesn't come from a political world, so for him, he's like, I don't really know what this is, but you do you, and go get him, Tiger. Like, we use his house for essentially our office headquarters right now. And
damn, so you got him
live
all
with him, and he's great. And so I'm just super grateful. But it does take a toll because your schedule is not yours. You're not home ever. Like, your last minute things change. You've got to leave. You come back. You're tired. You're stressed. And you want to just vent about stuff that's like political. But yeah, he's been wonderful. But it takes its toll.
You're eating on the fly, you're not eating healthy.
I know, I'm not like cooking, I'm not contributing. Like, I suck.
That's a part of, I think, the campaign that people don't see. They just see the candidate, but the toll that it takes on their personal life and their family.
Totally.
It's serious.
Yeah.
Some families don't survive it.
And I can imagine. And I don't know how people do it I guess hopefully I'll find out, but like commuting to Washington every week, like that's tough. Like, people, it's really hard. So,
it's not a great salary either. So.
I mean, it's more than a lot of people make.
But for the work that you do and the travel and
the hours.
And DC is expensive. And
it is, and you have to have 2 households, and so it's a lot. It's a lot. So I don't think, I'm certainly not doing it for the money. Doing it for the love of the game.
Well, I brought it up because folks don't realize that, like, our Congress people don't make it.
No, and there's definitely a lot of people in Congress who could be making a lot more doing other things. And so, it is sacrifice. It is public service. Now, some people are not public servants, in my opinion, but most folks, I think, in our delegation are, and it does take its toll. You talk to folks up close, and it's exhausting.
And this is a sensitive subject because if you win, there's the issue of security. I mean, we've seen over the years how our elected officials in Congress and in the Senate their lives are at risk. So. That's what I mean. It takes a toll on your family. It's not something to take lightly.
No, like, I had the honor of meeting Gabby Giffords a few years ago. Now she's a big anti-gun advocate, and she was running for Congress when she was shot. With the senator, when we were, as his state director, we put together events in state, big events, big town halls, and we were always concerned about security. We got training, and
I would tell them the same thing, like, what are you doing, man?
And
where's the security? Oh, Eric, like, no, bro. Like,
and you see the discourse online.
It's this climate right now. It's just horrible.
It's very scary, and it's not hard. You see Islamophobia, anti-Semitism. Those attacks are escalating. You see the vitriol online on those topics escalating. That's just one topic that's like hot right now. And it's frightening because you see the jump between the online world and the very divisive and scary and nasty rhetoric to the real world. And that's like, that leap is becoming smaller and smaller. And so it's very frightening.
How do we get back to discourse, Sue? How do we do it? I mean, what is some of the paths we can?
I think people are fearful. I try to be empathetic and I'd be curious. This is an open question, so I love other people's thoughts. But like, I feel like people are operating from positions of fear. And I think when people are fearful, they use their lizard brain. Very practical. So I think we have to make people feel safe, like fundamentally. And that means economically, emotionally, as whatever their identities are. Everybody in our country needs to feel safe. And I think that's like a fundamental need. In the immediate future, though, like, the online algorithms, the social media companies are a real problem. Like, I was watching something that the French Prime Minister said, Macron, this week, and he was critical of the fact that we have no insights into these social media algorithms at all. And so the best we can all tell is that they escalate things that make people angry. So if somebody gets angry about a topic and it draws a lot of eyeballs, then that gets like fanned out into the community, into the world even more. And so you're taking anger and you're escalating that anger. And so something that people maybe were a passing thought 2, level of 2 anger, are now like a 10 in which they're like gonna, you know, like burn down the house. So I think at the very least we have to start to regulate tech companies that control social media so that the algorithms are not, like, you can imagine the implications for democracy being pretty bad if you have tech companies with their own private interests, which is money, controlling what is essentially the news that people consume every day. I don't know what algorithm they're using, but it does not lend itself to good discourse.
Yeah. And so when you're thinking about being and running for Congress, what are some of the things you would say to folks who, like, what's important to Sue to really to change, to bring about that discourse, to bring about, you know, dealing with some of the things of fear? What would you say?
So I think it comes from a sense of the economy's being rigged against me, and that puts me on edge because every day and every month I have to grapple with things that are not fair. Rising prices, my wages are stagnating. Rising prices, wages are stagnating, and then I look around and I see, oh my God, there's billionaires who have more money than they could spend in 100 generations, like not paying taxes.
Yeah.
And so that's gonna make me angry because I'm stressed and those guys have it easy, and that doesn't seem fair. So I think fixing the economy goes a long way to making people feel less afraid. But we have to be intolerant of bigotry in all its forms. And I think when we see it on the left, when we see it on the right, we have to call it out and we have to stop it and cut it out. And candidates who benefit from that type of discourse, it is their responsibility to tell people to cut it out. And that's true in both parties, that's true within primaries, it's true across the board. We cannot traffic in bigotry and in stereotypes because that will just, as leaders, as candidates, as politicians, we have to be leading the way on nipping that stuff in the bud. And it can be racial, it can be sexual, it can be around religion, and it needs to stop.
So a vote for Sue would be a vote for what?
A vote for Sue would be a vote for standing up to powerful people and building coalitions that start to fix what's gone wrong in this country and repair it past the point of where it was before. It was never really fair,
Right.
but we're now like, it's really laid bare. And so you need someone who's going to be able to both fight, but also build coalitions with a vision for what comes next. And that is a vision grounded in fairness and equity and community and local economies and sustainability.
I mean, you've done this, you know, you've done coalition building for years. How has that you know, our elected officials? These, like, where did that get lost? Like, I mean,
Such a good question.
Yeah, because when you were talking about like coalition building, I mean, it's always been a part of really building sustainable infrastructure for things to change.
Yes, for change, yes.
But somehow, Sue, maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're right.
Somehow, the art of building coalitions has gotten lost in many of our communities, in our politics, in our faiths. Like, it's not, I'm part of the New Jersey Coalition of Religious Leaders. It doesn't matter what religion you are. We come together to try to drive courage and policy that would get people to see things that bring about integration of, I call economic integration, social integration, religious integration, and people getting back to knowing that there's a song that Miguel has, Candles in the Sun, and he said, you know, may we all live long, may we all be brave, may the bridges that we burn only light our way.
I love that, yeah.
And he says in the end of the song, we're all that we got. But somehow we're losing sight of that we need each other.
I know.
How do we get back to that?
God, that is such a good question, because I feel like it manifests in our organizing, like our movement organizing, but it also manifests in our built communities. Like suburbia is terrible for this. Like, right? Like cul-de-sacs are terrible for community.
It's
like
true.
Walkable communities, densely walkable communities with plenty of housing and public transportation, like creates a sense of community. Like I'm a big physical building space advocate. Like we have to invest in public transportation and walkable communities and dense housing space. So part of it's like just sort of like how we've chosen to build in the last 80 years in this country. But part of it too in this moment, I mean, I'm curious what you think, but like I feel like coalition building is really hard. It's messy. It's exhausting.
It is.
You have to do relationships.
Frustrating.
You have to go have coffee with a person, figure out what is it that they're really about. Okay, that's their goal. All right, so if that's their goal, then I can help them get there this way. Okay, but we know what we need. We need that guy. Okay, let's try to bring that person in. It's iterative. It's slow. And we are in a cultural moment where it's like clickbaity and fast and like gotcha and like it's going to go viral or not. And the truth is like the slow, hard work of change, like actual change, not like flash in the pan, random stuff, but true change it takes a long time and it's slow. And I feel like, you know, a lot has been written about the attention deficit and how we like are all like, you know, multitasking all the time. And those things are like completely at odds with coalition building. And so I think it's almost an act of counterculturalness to be in to say I'm going to decide to build relationships and I'm going to decide to coalition build because it goes against the us them methodology or the way we sort of process today's cultural world. And so but I love that. I think it's a lost art, not lost, because I think people still, we're not talking about that long ago where we were all doing it. So I do very much feel like we have to get back to that. I mean, that's nuts and bolts of human relationship and human organizing and how change has always happened.
It's interesting because that's, you know, this fits into the thing I've always say, like, and then it's just my view of humanity. I don't think, you know, we got this word morals. I don't think we're moral beings at all. I think we operate our self-interest. And sometimes those self-interests can be aligned for good and sometimes they're not. And so that's where I think, just when I talk about coalition building, you know, we have to understand that we are all that we got.
Oh, so true.
And so if we don't, it's in our self-interest to really start to, and I hate that, I don't want to call our president an idiot. That's what I'm saying. But he's learning now. You started this war, right? We're talking about the Iran war. And now you're fussing at the coalition partners that you insulted all this time.
I know, because
and now like, you'll need them.
Yes, thank you. And like maybe you should, this is why you enter into alliances. And by the way, why you have diplomacy.
Yes.
And you don't just jump right to war. Oh, because what? Oil's going to go up. Yeah, we know that. We knew the Strait of Hormuz was under attack. We knew that if you go into Iran, they choke us out. That's why no one's done it before. So now, stop.
And forgive me for mentioning he is our president. I have to respect that. Like Jay-Z. Lord, forgive me. I got these dark forces in me. But I remember what these streets did to me. But anyway.
It's so true, though. It's so true. And I'm so glad you said self-interest because I think
because it's true in my view.
Me too. And I think sometimes us in the movement forget that. Like it's okay to have an interest.
Absolutely.
On behalf of you or your community or your organization. That's actually, we need to all be rational actors for this whole thing to work. So if you come to the table and I come to the table and you represent your folks and I represent my folks, like what's the place we can work together? It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
So people they get frustrated about transaction relationships. Transaction relationships are good as long as you're transactional about what the relationship is, right? And so then we can start from a ground. Okay, I know what you're about.
Like, you need this. I need this.
So let's figure
this out.
Self-interest.
It's fine. It's how it works. Let's not pretend otherwise. And Trenton teaches you that.
Absolutely.
And like I find that even people who I disagree with 99% of the time, if I can find that one or two things that I'm like, ooh, okay, I see what he needs. Let me figure this. Let me go back to my team, huddle up, and come back here with this idea. You're able to find partnerships that are super unlikely. And then you move the ball down the field. But if we just demonize everybody, like we don't have to marry them. We just have to figure one thing out. And then we can go back to being on opposite sides. And that art is exactly what I think we're missing in Washington. That like it's pragmatic but it's beautiful and it's human.
It is human.
And
that's
how
the
change
part.
has always happened.
But that's the part I think we struggle with. You know, in my memoir, I'm writing about, you know, and I said this publicly. I think human beings struggle with the fact that we are a contradiction.
Yeah, we are.
Human beings are a contradiction.
Large and contain multitudes.
Yeah, I can be loving and I can be an asshole. I can sometimes, hurt the people I love. That's just the fact of being human. Years ago, before I had kids, I didn't want to have kids. I said, well, I don't want to have kids. I don't want to scar them. Until you're a parent, you realize it's inevitable. You're going to scar those kids.
Yeah.
You can't get around it. Are you going to be there for them to heal those scars?
Yeah.
Right? And then when you can have your adult kids, like I have, and grandkids who's constantly at my house, it's always
that's
around.
Wonderful.
You realize I got lucky because it's not something that I did.
Right. I'm not some magical parent.
No, I'm still human. I'm still a motherfucker. I
still got
sometimes.
my strengths and weaknesses and my internal contradictions.
Yes, absolutely. So this is what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Like, this is why I have this podcast, and we can talk about these issues
I
and
think
how
it's
do we
so important.
Get to people to understand.
Because people are not either good or bad. Like,
They're
that's
not.
the other thing. Like, people aren't walking around in white hats and black hats. It's like
No.
people are all mixed up.
Yes.
And the systems they're in and the incentives they're after is what pollutes the whole thing. And so if you can get to the structural point, which is why the Line lawsuit was so important, because yes, you might elect a good person or a bad person. How about we fix the structures that make it more responsive to people in general? And that's a job well done.
So that's what you're trying to do?
Yes, I want to fix structures. I do. I care about that. Maybe it's boring and wonky and yes, I want to pass Medicare for all. And yes, I want to make sure our economy is more fair, but I want to make the structures sustainably fair everywhere for all people. That matters to me.
So if you saw a young lady who's starting out in a local community and want to get into public service, what would you say to them?
Oh my God, I'd say find something that makes you angry and go fix it. No, literally, people ask me this all the time. They're like, how do we get more youth involved in government? And I'm like, okay. What you need to do is organize school. What's something that's pissing you off at school? Oh, I hate getting up early. You know what? Science says we should move teenage start dates.
Why haven't we done that?
Because buses, schools, sports, I don't know why.
These kids aren't getting any sleep. No. Teenagers are open. Why the fuck are
anxious, it's not good, mental health, all this stuff, being a healthy person.
We know these, but we won't change it.
We know this. They need 10 hours of sleep a night.
Yes.
And their psychological or circadian clocks are later. So, for instance, if you're a teenager and you want to be in government, go organize your classmates. Nobody wants to get up early. Nobody. Ain't no one in that room who's glad they're there at 7:15 in the morning. So organize them, do petitions, show up at school board meetings, get your parents, find a scientist who will testify, who's a sleep expert.
That's true.
Go organize something that upsets you about your little world. Get that done and then come back to me and tell me what you've learned, because that's civic engagement. It's not learning how a bill's passed or there's 3 branches of government. That stuff's good. You learn that later. You learn that as you go. But the learning of civic engagement is practice, it's habit, and it's doing, and it's organizing. So when I love it when young people want to get involved, but it's go solve a problem right now in your community. It doesn't have to be the whole world. You don't have to fix climate change, but go fix one thing. Find some friends, because politics is a team sport.
It is.
And go fix one thing in your community.
What have you learned from your last run to this run? What is one of the lessons you've learned?
Oh, I think I've learned that having a great team around you is really important, and I'm blessed. There's my campaign manager, Rob's over there. I've got a great team, and I'm really, really, really blessed to have a great team. So that's really important. 2 is that there's things in your control, and there's things that are not in your control. And it's just the old serenity prayer. Have the wisdom to know the difference. Politics is capricious, it's fickle.
It is, isn't it?
And you just have to do your best with what you can control. And then the final thing is that you have to just speak your truth. When it comes down to it, you can make political calculations. You can say, okay, we can do this, downside of that. But when it comes down to it, you have to live with the things you say for the rest of your life. So make sure they come from a place of your best understanding at that moment in time for what you think is right, taking into consideration all the political things and everything else. But you have to own these things for the rest of your life, so make sure you appreciate them. And probably the last thing of all is that I spent a lot of time, this is more of a tactical thing, on the last campaign talking about women's reproductive health, which is really, really important, and that problem hasn't gone away, it's just gotten worse. But I would have talked more about the economy as well. And I think for whatever reason, people in our society have a lot of patience for taking away the rights of women. And we have to attack the economy as a bottom of the pyramid. And we need to talk about those other things too. but the economic justice aspect of these problems is, I think, the bottom of the pyramid.
Yeah, it's such a wild disparity between the haves and the have-nots.
Yes, and getting worse every single day.
Every day. Final question. What is one of your favorite quotes and why?
Okay, well, I couldn't memorize it because my brain is mush. But one of my favorite quotes is the famous Theodore Roosevelt Man in the Arena speech. I'm not going to give you the whole thing, but I think it's really important because at its heart, being an organizer, being involved in this work at all, being a candidate is like this big risk, and everyone's criticizing you all the time. And so I think one of the most important quotes, if you're heading an organization or you're trying to write or you have an opinion and you're sticking your neck out, is it's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or woman, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly. And who, if at worst he fails, he at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat.
Wow.
I love that quote. It's so much about getting in it.
Tell me why that speaks to you so much.
Oh, because being a leader in any regard means people are going to criticize you. They're going to attack you unfairly. They're going to lie about you. There's misinformation. I mean, it's true at political work, but it's also true if you're the head of an organization or the head of a university or a leader in the business community, no matter what you are. And there's the peanut gallery who loves to throw cheap criticisms, but it doesn't mean you stop. They don't boo nobodies. So people are always going to criticize people who are making change, who are shaking things up a little bit. And I think we wear that as a badge of honor. We do it with humility. We take the feedback when there is feedback, but we don't stop and we don't hesitate just because there's people criticizing. And being in the fight, trying to make change and trying to make the world better, that comes with the territory. You're going to get criticized, and it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. And you're actually contributing by that effort. And sometimes the people who make the most effort and the people who do the hardest jobs on this journey of change that we're all on are the people whose names we never know, the people who never got credit, the women, the people of color who have been toiling on an issue for a long time. And someday, at some point later in the time, somebody gets credit for something that they are really just standing on the shoulders of the people who came before them. And so remembering those people who struggled and toiled is what I think that quote's about.
That's fantastic. That's a great way to end. I think part of the challenge is to remember that because you get caught up in such the rat race of what society tells us. And criticism is hard for some people particularly. And I don't want to blame everything on social media because everybody's looking for more likes and more followers.
And it's always been there.
Yeah. And so experiencing what we call rejection, I think we take it personal too much.
So true.
And it's just they may reject our concept, our ideas, but if they get to know me, it's hard for someone to reject someone that knows them, that understands where they're coming from, that know that they don't have aspirations to hurt or to harm. But we may disagree. We may not have the same philosophy and theory, but I don't have to vilify you just because you don't agree with me.
That's exactly right. I know. It's so well said. So spot on.
Thank you, my friend. It's been a
oh
pleasure
my gosh,
to chat.
Anytime. It's so good just to chat with you anyway.
Good luck.
Thank you.
There are a lot of candidates who are running.
There are. Petitions are due Monday, so we might see fewer people after that. But no, it's it. We're all on this journey of democracy together here in New Jersey.
Absolutely. Looking forward to
it's all good.
Working with you, and we've always been working together.
Yep,
but thanks so much for coming on. So
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Hey, this is Reverend Eric Dobson, and this is Navigating Realities podcast where dialogue meets understanding. Follow us and subscribe to us on YouTube, and you can find us on all streaming platforms.